I'm pretty stoked. We have login, we have account creation set up, we have password reset set up. Let's build some basic user management using o1-preview to create the dev plan and Cursor AI to do all the development. This is what the app looks like right now. It's just printing some text onto the browser. Importantly, notice that it's in production. It's on Heroku right now, so that is live and it's deployed. And this is kind of what I want the app to look like when we're done. All I really need is a basic login form that's styled and a sign up form where users can sign in, create an account, log out, reset their password, basic user management. By the way, if you didn't catch the two parts before this session, in part one, we did a bunch of product discovery work using AI tools. And in part two, we set up our basic development environments. So go check those out if you want that context. Okay, let's move on to part three, user management. I've got my prompt written out here for GPT o1 preview. Let's go ahead and paste that in and let it start thinking about how to create a development plan for us. In my prompt, I explain my tech stack. I explain the current state of the app, what is and is not installed. I give the goals and scope of the dev plan. I provide design guidelines. I give it guidelines for how to write the dev plan. And then I give it some more technical context. Here's my file structure, and then here's some code for some of the more important files. I don't have a lot of code in my repository yet, so I think it's fine just to paste some of the code in there. Looks like it's almost done creating a development plan for us. Let's see what it made. Okay, it created 12 scopes in all, starting with setup database with SQLize, then implement user signup backend endpoint, implement signup form on front end, implement user login backend endpoint, implement login form on front end, user logout functionality, password reset functionality, display you are logged in when user is logged in. This was part of my design guidance. Error handling and validation messages. Set up local Postgres database. This is interesting to come as scope 10. I might expect this to come earlier in the process. I actually have Postgres installed. I might go ahead and jump to this earlier on so I can verify the database is connected correctly. Configure SendGrid for email sending. I did specifically ask for SendGrid. And the final scope is prepare for future email verification feature. In my prompt, I explained I don't want users to confirm their email address, but I might want to build that in the future. That's what this refers to. This looks like a pretty good plan to me. I'm going to start with scope 1. I do think that I want to connect to the database during scope 1 and confirm that it's connected properly. I'll just use GPT-4o to fill in the gaps there. o1-preview did a good job creating a general dev plan with prompts that I can paste into Cursor, and I'll use 4o to fill in the gaps. Okay, let's take the first scope, copy that, and paste that into Composer in Cursor. And Cursor is going to think about it a bit and write some code changes for us. Okay, first we need to install a couple packages in our backend. Let's go ahead and get that taken care of. Now we need to initialize SQLize so it can create configs and models and seeder directories for us. Oh, it looks like Cursor already created these directories, so maybe I don't need to run this because I am getting an error. Let's skip it for now and come back if we have to. Okay, I rejected the changes on the .env file because it was trying to overwrite my API key to OpenAI. Everything else I accepted. Okay, here's where I'm going to use 4o to fill in that gap I mentioned earlier. I have Postgres installed, but I actually haven't created my local database, so I just asked 4o how I go ahead and set that up so my app can connect to it. Okay, database created and privileges granted. Now I just need to update my .env so my app can connect. Okay, I think we're ready to run this migration now to see if the application itself can connect to the database and create the necessary tables. Looks like no errors. Let's hop into the database and see if we can see that new table. Okay, nice. I see two tables in my database, SQLize Meta and users. That looks about right. It looks like the users table has ID, email, password hash, created at, updated at. Sweet. This is a huge step. Very, very cool. Let me commit these changes and then let's move on to scope 2. Implement user signup backend endpoint. Let's go. Oh, I just realized you can open the Composer as a side panel. That's so much better than having that kind of floating modal. I'm going to use this, popping in scope 2. Okay, a couple to-dos. I have to install some packages. I also have to create a SendGrid account and grab the API key so I can use that and it can actually connect to SendGrid services. Okay, code changes look good. I'm going to accept these and then go set up SendGrid and then come back. Okay, SendGrid API key is added. Let's do a git commit and move on. Scope 3, implement sign up form on front end. So after this one, we will be able to test it locally and actually see something, which is very exciting. Changes looked okay, but let's see if they're actually working. And it doesn't look like it. I think what's happening here is we're able to display the front end, but the back end, the server is actually crashing. So let me dig into that. So I'm asking Cursor Chat what's going on here. I pasted in the entirety of the error messages. Steps to resolve the issue: check the models directory, ensure that models directory exists. Sure does. I'm looking at it over here. Looks like everything is right. Let me see if it can correct the error for me. Okay, after reading this a bit and trying a couple things, I found out it's an export-import issue. Got that resolved and the backend is working again. Okay, let's actually test this now. I'm going to try to sign up to see what happens. I got an error. Okay, great. I got this error. Could it be because my database is empty right now? Let's see if Cursor thinks that might be the reason why. Okay, after chatting with Cursor Chat a bit, it really wanted me to create this models/index.js file to handle export import a bit better for my models. So I had Composer do that for me. Let's give this another test. And here goes nothing. Oh. An error occurred, but it looked a little bit different, didn't it? Let's see what we got here. Oh, I see. I think the error is related to trying to send a confirmation email. So it's actually, I think, happening on the SendGrid side, because in my database, let's go ahead and see if these users are being created. And it looks like they are. I've got test 1, test 2, and test 3 all created. So that is excellent. I'm not going to worry so much about the SendGrid error right now. I might just check my SendGrid dashboard really quick. Okay, in SendGrid at least, I'm seeing no results found for making requests to my API key, so maybe something just isn't correctly hooked up. But I am creating users in the database. I'm happy with that. Let's make a git commit and move on for now. Add a git commit, implement signup form on the front end. And now for our next scope, which is scope 4, implement user login backend endpoint. All right, let's get the login endpoint over into Cursor. All right, add a couple packages, JSON Web Token, cookie parser, got that in there. Okay, these look pretty good. We'll just test that one out after we implement the front end for the login component. So let me grab that prompt and paste that scope 5 into Composer to implement the front end side of logging in. Changes look okay. Just accepted those. Let's see what the app looks like now. Cool. Instead of sign up, it says login. And excellent. We have a little some links here. So let's try logging in. Test at test.com. The password was password login successful. Whoa, this is interesting. On the first try, folks, looks like we just logged in successfully. I'm not seeing any errors. The server didn't crash. There's a warning there, but we can live with that for now. Excellent. Let's move on. I almost forgot to add a git commit. Let's do that before we move on to the next scope. Scope 6 is user logout functionality. Let's pop that prompt over into Cursor. Changes look okay for now. Going to go ahead and accept those and test out the updates to the app. All right, logging in again, and I have successfully logged in. Cool. I'm not seeing any errors. Excellent. And can I log out? Boom, I can. Wonderful. Let's move on. But not before we do a git commit. Okay, good. Now let's move on. Scope 7 is password reset functionality. That might depend on, well, it certainly will depend on the SendGrid implementation that I believe is currently not working. So I'm not expecting this one to work out of the box, but we will see. Okay, looks like a lot of code was generated. I do have to run a database migration first, so let's start with that. Okay. I could not do the migration because I have not accepted the code changes yet. So let me first read through the code, accept them if they look good, then I'll run the migration. Migration went through just fine after accepting the code. Let's test this flow out. Again, I don't think it's going to work because I don't think SendGrid works, but let's try it out anyways. Okay, I know I have reset password forms created, but this link doesn't seem to be doing anything, so I'm going to request that Cursor fix that for me. Okay, I'm telling it that the password reset link isn't working and basically saying, hey, here's the files to probably look at. Can you update the code so that it actually works, please? It's just this one little line. It needed to take a comment out and put the right function call in there. Figured it was going to be a pretty easy fix, but let's check its work and see if it actually. There we go. Yeah, now the link is working. Now we can try out this test. Of course, I don't own this email address, so I'm definitely not going to receive anything. Error occurred anyways. It's probably regarding the call out to SendGrid. I think we're going to be able to verify that, not in this error message at least. Let's check in cursor really quick to see if we get something that's a little bit more useful. It does seem to be referencing this SendGrid package again. This looks like the same error message that we saw earlier. So maybe it's time to fix this SendGrid bug. Okay, so I found where we're attempting to send emails from SendGrid with this sgmail.send function. And I edited this so that we can add logging for the error messages we receive from SendGrid. So hopefully that'll give us a little bit more information. Let's test this out again. Okay, should get an error, got an error, awesome. Let's see if this is useful. Probably not. I think the error is going to be logged in our terminal here. Sweet, I figured it out. It was actually that I was handing an incorrect verified email address over to SendGrid. So it was basically rejecting my API call. So let me show you what I've got going on here. This is the welcome email that is being sent to my personal email address. So thank you for signing up, it says. Yay, it's working. All right, I made a couple more tweaks and I got that password reset email coming through as well. Let's take a look at that. So I got sent a link with the password reset link in it. I'm going to come in here. Oh, interesting. It just tells me to log in. That doesn't look like what I would expect. This is really interesting. I'm actually doing this kind of process for the first time where instead of going into chat to debug, I'm just staying in Composer and I'm explaining to Composer what the error is and asking it to please fix it for me. And so far it's actually doing a pretty good job. All right, I just got the new password reset email. Let me try this one out. This should take us to a password reset form, which it is. I'm going to change my password to password123. Highly secure. Reset that bad boy. And now I'm going to log in as that user. Let's see if this works. Yes. Okay, we got password reset functionality. Let's go. A lot of changes. Let's do a git commit and move on. Okay, this next scope should be a relatively small one. We're just displaying to the user that they're logged in once they log in. I feel like we're kind of already doing that. What does it actually look like when I log in? It looks like this. So interesting. It kind of already took care. I'm just going to skip this. I'm just going to skip this scope. o1-preview apparently wrote tickets that took care of this scope of work before we even got to this scope of work. So let's just skip it because it's already done. Next is implementing error handling and validation messages. Changes seem pretty straightforward. Let's give it a quick test and see how things look. Okay, yeah, there's a little bit of extra validation here. Email is invalid, highlights it as red. That's cool. I think there was a couple other things, but honestly, this is fine. Next scope is setting up Postgres. As I've already mentioned, we took care of that earlier on. To me, it made more sense to do that early in the process rather than later in the process, so I'm going to skip that. Scope 11 is setting up SendGrid. Again, I've already taken care of that. I'm just going to skip that, so we're rocking and rolling. Scope 12 is prepare for future email verification feature. I'm going to skip that too. It's just a prep step, and I don't want to implement that right now. So I'm pretty stoked. We have login, we have account creation set up, we have password reset set up. That's all your basic user management to get people into your product and allow them to log in and use it. Next thing that I need to do, which will not be included in this video, I'll just do it on my own. I need to deploy this to Heroku and make sure that my app has access to the database on staging and production. But I'm going to skip that for now. Hope this was enjoyable. There's a link in the description to the entire series. If this is interesting or useful, give me a subscription. Catch you later. Peace.